Hello, my lovelies. This episode is brought to you by Airbnb, of course. And if you are in need of New Year rejuvenation, remember to check out Guest Favorites, a collection of the most loved homes on Airbnb to find your next winter retreat. Now, let's start the show.
You don't have to use it. If you don't like it, you should move on and find something that works for you. Like, I like people that don't like astrology. I think it's great.
I don't think that astrology takes your choices away. Personally, I feel like it actually makes you a little bit more objective.
I'm so excited to talk about your chart and all of the ways in which the two of you are connected because it's kind of ridiculous.
Oh my goodness.
All I heard when you said that was, you'll be single for a lifetime. I am absolutely over the moon, the sun, and the stars for today's guest. You might follow her on TikTok or Instagram, or you might have seen her on the Netflix show Explained. Or maybe you've read her work as the resident astrologer for Oprah magazine. She also has a beautiful book out called You Were Born for This, Astrology for Radical Self-Acceptance. Chani Nicholas, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
It's so good to be here talking to you because we've spoken before about some astrology stuff on some other thing we did. And then I saw you at the LGBTQ plus center for the gala that they had. But I never had you on, baby, this is Keke Palmer. I'm so happy to have you and to really get into the nitty gritty because anybody who knows me knows I love astrology.
We love that.
So have you been?
I've been good. Busy. You?
I've been busy too, working. There's a lot that's been going on this year. You know, for me, this is my first year of almost completion into my 30s and this new decade, an era for myself. And I feel so many exciting changes that I'm excited to hear if they have anything to do with my astrological stuff at the moment. But first, I kind of want to talk to you about what astrology means to you, kind of what has driven you to have this be kind of your thing or your skill, right? Because I think I've been talking a lot about how we all show up in different ways. Like for me, it's entertainment, but ultimately I just want to connect to people. I want to share in the emotions that we all have that we sometimes can't get to. And I think storytelling is a way that I choose to do that. And I think we all do that with our purpose. There's like something that we all are connecting to and we showcase it in different ways. So for you with astrology, what was the connection? What drew you to it?
I love that you say that because it's so your chart. If you want to get into that later, we can. But, you know, for me, it was more that astrology chose me, I think.
Ooh.
I really tried to not do it for a long time. I didn't want to do it. It felt like too niche. It felt like too on the margins. It was like, that's not a real career. Like, what is this? And it was just like my constant friend. And as soon as I really fully turned to it, or every time I even sort of turned to it, things would start to come alive in my life and things would start to work out. So it just became this path that kept opening up for me and to me and helped me to open up, I think, more to life and all of the opportunities. So I finally stopped being so resistant to it and just like gave into it.
Well, that speaks to the title of your book. You were born for this, Astrology for Radical Self-Acceptance. And in the book, you write, the first time I encountered astrology was the first time I remember feeling seen. What was that experience? What happened that finally resonated with you?
You know, I grew up with a lot of adults that were very consumed in their own drama and their own stuff, like a lot of us do. And I grew up with a lot of addiction, and I grew up around a lot of people that were just like busy partying and having a good time. And so the first time I went to an astrologer was the first time I felt like someone actually was witnessing me and could actually see me. And it was such a riveting experience that I was like, what is this thing that this person is doing? And they also read everybody else in my family. Like we all went for a big family reading. And they were able to articulate the differences between each of us. And it was really specific stuff. And it explained me to myself, and it explained my stepsister to me, and my dad and my stepmom. And it helped me to parse it all out. So it just gave me like a framework for seeing myself and other people and my relationship to them and our relationships together in a whole different way.
So what do you say to somebody that's listening to this and like, oh, it's all generalizations? And also even people with faithful backgrounds where there's this idea of, and not even this idea, but really truly this belief that, well, how can this say this is my destiny and this is what's designed for me. How do you kind of, and I don't even say combat that, but balance that with what astrology means and the way that it kind of tells you who you are or who you're going to be?
Yeah, I think, if we think like religiously or spiritually, if some great creative force, some might call that God or the universe or what have you, brings everything into being, then everything in the natural world is actually connected to us. And astrology is a way of looking in a mirror. You don't have to use it. If you don't like it, you should move on and find something that works for you. Like, not everyone should believe in it. It's not something that is for everybody. I don't think anything should be. It would be weird if we all believed in the same thing. I don't want to live in that world. So I like people that don't like astrology. I think it's great. But it's just like there's some things in life that if you pay attention to them, you start to see something that appears as if it is intelligent all on its own. And I think if you study nature, even if you just go into the pure, if you want to call it that, science of it, there's an intelligence that is manifest in every speck, every piece of DNA, every molecule of everything. And we know through, whatever view you want to take scientifically, that the world is speaking to itself, that there is a orchestration of shapes and colors and everything is purposeful.
And to me, it all ties in. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that there's one over there. I feel this way about physics, science, astrology, spirituality. As somebody growing up in the church, I feel that everything is like speaking the same thing, but just with different languages. And you're right. It don't have to be for you. That's why we have all these different things. But the cool part about it for me that I found, which maybe is what you're speaking to with that subtitle of Astrology for the Radical Self-Acceptance, because sometimes when you're reading all the stuff, it almost enhances your choice and your sense of options. Because you say, well, if naturally I might be a little bit this or a little bit that, that makes me more self-aware. So when I find myself in certain situations, I can kind of remember that and say, well, maybe I should make a different choice. That's how I often think of it. I don't think that astrology takes your choices away. Personally, I feel like it actually makes you a little bit more objective if you look at it that way.
Yeah, I think it should deepen your relationship to yourself and your life and what you need to do and how to be of service. And if it's not doing that, I think maybe it's being misinterpreted. If you feel like it's making you like less aware or more afraid, then perhaps it's not the astrology that's for you. Perhaps it's not such a good fit, or the people you're getting it from are doing it a disservice.
Yes. Now, before we get into my, I want to hear what you've seen or you've found out about me these days. The last question I'll ask before we get into that is kind of how you would break down the sun, the moon, and the rising, the kind of the big three, or the usage of the totality of the chart. Because as we all know now, I think it's become more conversational that your sun sign isn't the only sign that represents the many different facets of you. So for the people that are listening that maybe don't, know all that stuff and they're interested or just want to hear us talk about it, how would you describe that big three and its importance?
Yeah. So the rising sign is the most personal part of your chart because it's literally what part of the sky was rising up over the eastern horizon the moment you were pronounced born, in the exact location that you were in. So it's so specific to you because it changes every couple of hours. So the rising sign is always moving, but the sun doesn't change sign more than once every 30 days, and the moon changes sign once every 2.5 days. So your rising sign is the sign that tells us what you're motivated to do in this life. The sun tells us the style within which you shine, and the moon tells us the ways in which you go about making your life purpose real and manifest on this earth.
Ooh.
So can we take you as an example?
Yes. I'm excited.
Okay.
My favorite thing, talking about me.
So you're born with a Cancer rising.
Yes.
So your motivation is to get people to feel. Your motivation, which I think is something that you just said at the opening of the show. Your motivation is to initiate us into feeling something. It's not neutral. It's like, hey, I'm going to hit you right here or right in the gut. Like, that's where I'm going. And it's not vindictive. It's very much like, I want you to feel this thing. And not only that, but you had Venus, the planet of love, relationship, but art and artistry and creating art and being creative. She's like the great lover goddess. She's right on your ascendant. She was, if we looked over to the eastern horizon, that's the planet that would be rising up. And she would have been such a bright, gorgeous, spectacular, like diamond in the sky. So you have this mark of being super blessed by the goddess, by the planet, however you want to see it, by the planet of art and love and beauty. And so your thing is to come in and make connections by getting people to feel, and mostly using art as your vehicle, or using the creation of beautiful things as your vehicle. And that is your motivation for living. That is why you came here. That's what your chart says, like just off the top. It's like, hey,
that's insane.
This is how so if you were born into a family that was like only math, only science, not that you're not good at math and science, because all that Virgo is like, you are very good at being precise about a lot of things. Like, you're great at being an orator, like that's for sure. But your need to self-express and to create beauty and to be in the process of making art is like, it is so pronounced. It was so pronounced in the sky. Like the ancient astrologers would have walked outside after you were born and been like, oh, Venus is rising. So this little one is going to bring something beautiful and want to connect with a lot of people. It's like a deep desire to connect with the world. And then it gives us the planet that steers the direction of your life, which is your moon. So you have this like, Cancer rising can be almost kind of shy, or almost like it's very sensitive.
Yeah,
this is a very deeply feeling human being who's motivated to feel really deeply. But the way you express that is through a optimistic, loud, gregarious, boisterous moon in Sagittarius that will not quit. And your moon is in the 6th house. So the ways in which you express all that beauty and art and wanting to like connect to people is through hard fucking work. Because your moon is in the 6th house of work. And you were like, look, I have endless enthusiasm and endless energy to get this done.
Yes! Because it must be done, Chani. It must be done.
But it's with so much enthusiasm. So it's very different than your Cancer rising, right? Like your Cancer rising feels everything. You're very values driven because that Venus on the ascendant is like, this is what I value. And this is how I'm going to connect to people. And then your moon in Sagittarius is like, okay, let's do it through all of these different work projects. I will have 754 because your moon is in what we call a mutable sign, which likes to do at least 2 things at once, if not 74.
That's crazy.
And then your sun is in Virgo. And your Mercury is also in Virgo. So you're very analytical. You're very like, let me come correct. Let me get the data. Let me get the details. But it's
live for data.
It's in the 3rd house of kikiing. It's in the 3rd house of communications.
Oh my gosh.
It's in the 3rd house of podcasts. It's in the 3rd house of, I got something to tell you and I'm going to tell it to you. And you're going to be like, wow, I didn't know that. And you're going to be like, I know. I know a lot of things because I'm really intelligent and very hardworking. Oh, and the thing I love about this setup for you, because I was reading like one of the first like breakthrough movies that you had was Aquila and the Bee, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So is Virgo a sign that, especially in the 3rd house of communication, and possibly like spelling things, communicating things,
yes,
a sign that would want to get things right?
That's right.
Okay. The bee is actually associated with Venus because Venus is the planet associated with honey and flowers and roses and bees, because that's part of the goddess's thing. So you literally have like the planet. So Beyonce has, Venus in Libra in her 1st house, and she's the queen bee. And so you have that planet that's, its signature is honey and bees and flowers. It's on your ascendant. So it's like the mark of your life. So I just love that first kind of like breakthrough role was literally, you could kind of spell it out with your astrology.
That is so insane. And I don't believe things like that are coincidental. Like I do feel like sometimes like the universe, God is being like, wink, wink, or a little gag here and there.
Yeah, right? She's funny.
That's how I
choose
to think of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Baby, this is Keke Palmer, yeah.
Okay, y'all, I'm here to spill the tea on how to level up your 2025 travel game. Listen, as we step into the fresh new year, it's time to shake things up and try something different. You know what they say? New year, new adventures. And let me tell you, some trips are better in an Airbnb. As you guys know, I was recently tucked away in a fabulous lakeside cabin only a couple of hours away from the glitz and glam of Los Angeles. It had the works. We're talking game room, panoramic views of the mountains, a fully stocked kitchen that Tabitha Brown would be proud of, okay? And my fave, a jacuzzi on the balcony. Yes, yes. Now, you best believe me and the fam had the epitome of cozy, posted up, sipping on hot chocolate by the fire without a care in the world. And because we found this stunning house on Airbnb, we were super close to Big Bear proper and got all the tea from our host about the best spots in town. Child, we was hitting the slopes, popping downtown for shopping in the village or for dinner at Sweet Basil Bistro. Yes, get into it. We were right in the thick of things, and our host knew what they were talking about. Now, if you're feeling inspired and decided to hop on over to Airbnb to book yourself a little something, let me put you onto the truth. Guest favorites. Okay, these are the cream of the crop stays that other travelers are raving about. We're talking places with charm, character, and that special je ne sais quoi that'll make your 2025 unforgettable. That's how I found this gem. So go ahead, book that stay, and make 2025 your year of exploration. Trust me, you won't regret it. So obviously with astrology, there is a time and place for everything. Like it continues to move. Like different periods of your life are affected in different ways. So I'm curious of what it's saying now.
Okay. So there are some big things that, just kind of ended. Like you've finished up your Saturn return in like March of 2020. Yeah. So that was like a year and a bit ago. What is just leaving, like just is Pluto opposing your Venus. So this will only happen once in a lifetime. It won't happen for everybody because Pluto is such a slow moving planet. It's a planet of transformation and letting things go and going through a whole kind of process. And Venus is a planet of relationships and again of art. And so this would have been a time over the past, like 2 years. Again, it's finishing for good. It's finishing for good. On November 19th, it's done, gone. But these past couple of years would have been like a kind of reckoning and a unveiling of the deeper lessons that you were learning in terms of all kinds of partnerships, not just romantic. We're talking about artistic partnerships, platonic partnerships, business partnerships, like
the way I was seeing things.
Because you have such a prolific and easy time connecting to people. It is your mark. It is the way you're motivated. And so I would think that over the past couple of years, it's like, ooh, I better not take this for granted. This is a gift that was bestowed upon me. If I take it for granted, the wrong people will get to it. Like I need to not be like precious about this, but know how sacred this is. And not everyone's allowed in. And so it's like that process of elimination, we might say.
Or boundaries, elimination.
Yes.
Understanding how to, I talk about that a lot with my book in terms of reaching this point in my life where I have so much more clarity and intention about how I want to move forward and how I show up for myself in order to be able to do that. And that does mean having clear boundaries. That does mean saying no to more things that don't really matter, don't make sense, or don't align with what I know I want to be. Because there was a time period in my life where I don't want to say I was scared, but I was kind of like, I almost felt weighed down by this deep desire to connect because sometimes it was hard to feel the rejection of other people not wanting to connect.
Yes.
And that was kind of like how I became an entertainer and why again, if we're talking about astrology, why my moon is so important for me in this regard, because humor, comedy, that was how in my household growing up with my parents having the stress of just living the lives you have to live in America, trying to make it. My dad had a factory job. My mom was from job to job. And I could feel their stress so often. I could feel that energy. And I just started being like funny and silly and creating opportunity for them to re-engage, for them to be present again. And I feel like that's like literally how I've always felt and how I've continued to understand and have the language to say, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. It's not so much that I want to be an entertainer. No, I cared about people. I wanted to connect to people. I wanted to be a social scientist. I wanted to experience and say, hey, it's okay, guys. If you want to experience, you know, that's what this is about. It might hurt. It might be fun. It might be confusing, but we have to engage with this. Otherwise, what are we here for? You know?
Yeah. And so when we don't know that that's what we're doing, we can then fall into people pleasing, which is a mark of Venus, right? Like when we have Venus in a really powerful position like you do, one of the red flags is like, okay, because you're so good at facilitating connection and people are so lonely and disconnected. How does this get used? Or does it get used? But are you, again, valuing and honoring the medicine of it? And when we're young, we can't. It's just a thing we do unconsciously. And people will always have been magnetized to you. You just have like this natural power, this magnetism. It's just a thing. You just have it. And so as you get older, and especially around 30, after you go through your first Saturn return, it's like, hold on. I'm not going to live forever. This thing, you know, this is like TikTok. I need to make the most out of these segments of time. So what is it that I want instead of what is it that everybody else wants from me because I make them feel better?
Girl, 100%. That has what I experienced, and also how I experienced the reality of knowing I'm actually not like when I realized that not putting boundaries and not being clear with people was actually doing the opposite of what I wanted to do, which was help them. That made me get my stuff together faster because I said, well, I actually want to help this person. So if babying them and not being real with the issues is actually hurting them more and creating more of an opportunity for them to not grow, I've got to pull up my bootstraps and get it together and keep it real with people and stop lying to them, thinking that this is going to make them feel better only for the moment when really it's not even going to support the direction they need to go in. It was really hard to do that. Yeah.
But your Virgo can always be relied on for doing the best thing, the right thing, and the most logical thing. Because your Virgo is so high functioning because you have also Mercury in Virgo, which rules it. And so we can always get to you through being like, look, this is the system. This is how things work. This is what messes up the system. This is what gets it not to work. So what's your choice? Because you've got a choice in this. And Virgo will always be like, well, we need functionality above all else.
That's right. Because we can't have this fall apart. That don't make no sense. No,
not on my watch.
What did y'all in Van say? Not on my watch. Literally, girl. Literally. That is
I will not be seen as lazy or messing this up. Thank you very much.
No, seriously. And that's very much so how I feel. That's literally what gets me moving the fastest. This is very interesting that I want to just quickly step away to ask. Have you actually ever known someone and then found out their sign and been confused with how they're showing up?
It's less about if someone tells me their sign and it really doesn't match, then I just know that they've got a lot of planets and points in something very different. And that there's a struggle for them or there's something that's conflicting. And listen, when we're conflicting, we're really interesting. Like a friend of mine is an Aries sun. She's got like this amazing Aries signature, but it's hiding out. It's in a part of the chart that hides out. And so she hides her desire to win and competitiveness, but it's there. You just have to know it. It's like underneath the surface, but there's a lot in her chart that will tell you things are like underneath the surface. And then there's also these parts of her chart where she's just so giving and so sweet. And that's what people focus on. And so that's something that gets cultivated. So it's all like how these little pieces work together. Because if we just thought of you as a Virgo, we would miss this great desire to connect to people, to heal them through art and beauty, to let them know that they're not alone. We would miss out on this like really deep nurturing part of yourself, right? So we can't ever just silo ourselves in just our sun sign. It's so important to know how the whole chart, the whole sky was interacting when you were born.
And then, like you say, even in just the poetic sense of what you just explained with your friend, even if we break that down without astrology, it's really just the digging into knowing oneself deeper because there are so many deep parts of us that you won't see if you just look on the surface. Right. So whether you're looking into your chart and digging back there or you're spending time alone and having deep conversations with yourself, you're going to find that maybe this is really what's motivating me. Or maybe this is what I really want. You know what I mean? Because it's truly just about figuring out you more, which I think sometimes is difficult to do. You know, people don't always know what are the first steps for me to be able to dig into myself a little deeper and have more conversations about me and not feel strange about it.
Yeah. And I think for that, if someone's just starting out, I mean, you can always download our app and read about your sun sign.
I love your app. I had your app before I met you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I also think you should just go where the energy is. You know, like you should go where you feel comfortable and where you feel like you can kind of relax into something. So whether that's your church or whether that's a therapist or whether that's a yoga class or whether that's an astrology app, it's like go where you feel received and where you feel witnessed to some degree. And that'll at least be the beginning of a bigger journey.
I love that. Following the feeling. I always say that.
Yeah.
Following what comfort is, following what makes you feel excited. Even if you don't know exactly where you're going, it'll lead you to the place that's right for you.
Yeah.
So going back to what's going on in the planets right now, is there any astrological forces or planetary movements that are impacting me or you or everyone collectively? There must be, because this is getting kind of crazy out here in these streets, Chani. There must be something going on in the moon.
You know, we just came through eclipse season. So eclipse season is always a big moment of change and kind of everything speeding up. I will say that we're ending the year on a note of slowing down. We're ending the year with a Mars retrograde and a Mercury retrograde. So this is what I want everyone. Yeah, I want everyone to remember that we really want to save some time at the end of the year. I don't want you all to like I'll get it done in December. You're not going to. Just plan ahead. We're slowing down at the end of the year, and we're actually starting 2025 on a kind of slower note as well. So we just want to be a little bit more prepared.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that things like trying to get things done and move things forward really quickly will be a little bit more challenged because Mercury will be retrograde at the end of the year and because Mars will also be retrograde. It just signals a time where we're going to be going back and forth over something, probably multiple times. So
interesting.
Yeah. We might be slow to get results at the end of the year. And you can take that however.
Yeah, I'm like, slow with results. There's a couple of things I'm thinking about that we need results in.
Yeah.
Chile. Okay. Question about how people view astrology, because I think that's also the thing too. Again, I'm really so big on language and interpretation and how that can confuse us when we're all saying the same thing. And obviously with astrology, there's so many different ways you can look at it. There's Eastern, there's Western. Which one do you study, and how do you kind of, look at that in terms of like, again, delineating factors of which one you should believe or how you should interpret it?
Yeah. So I do what we call like traditional Western astrology, which is to say it's an amalgamation of a lot of teachings over a couple of thousand years in parts of the world that are now called Iraq, Iran, Northern Africa, like Egypt, and all over like Southern Europe. And so it's a confluence of a lot of different teachers over, again, a vast period of time. It's similar in some ways to what we would call Indian or Vedic astrology in its origins and in its outlook and in parts of its philosophical understandings. I think what's really important is to understand what philosophical branch of astrology you're looking at or reading about or where the astrologer is coming from, if you're interested in that. Because all the astrology is really, if they're good, if they're really doing their due diligence, we should all come to the same conclusion, just from different angles. And they all should have a similar philosophical structure at the base of it, which is about how the planets appear in the sky, how fast they're going, how slow they're going, what they're doing with each other, what signs they're in, what the condition of them is, because that will signal the condition of somebody's life. Like I said, for you, any astrologer in any tradition would have seen Venus rising up over the horizon and been like, oh, this little one is got some blessings, and their blessing is going to be about how they can connect and how they can create beauty and art. It would be true in any astrology, and there's many.
And so what does it say about love for me?
Well, it says you're a lover.
All I heard when you said that was, you'll be single for a lifetime.
Not true.
Oh my gosh, that is so
I mean,
funny.
we can look at like committed partnerships. We can look at like, romantic partnerships. We can look at it in a lot of different ways. But in your seventh house of committed partnerships, there's two planets there, Uranus and Neptune. And what that says to me is you need a very unique type of relationship, or the relationship that you're going for will be a little less traditional than the ones that you come from, right? So I want you to be able to think expansively and broadly and creatively about what type of long-term committed partnership you actually want to be in, because it shouldn't be from the template of society around you or what you've been handed. You're really in need of like 2.0ing it, right? Like
Damn, that sounds unique.
It's about your independence. It's about their independence, but also this deep connection, right? So like, how do we do commitment and freedom?
I mean, I'm here for that.
Without losing one or the other. Yeah.
I'm very, very here for that. And so when it comes to obviously work and love, and I'll say specifically for love, because obviously that's such a delicate subject, is the perception. It's never going to tell you exactly what it is, what you're going to find, and how to get it. But the perceptions, how do you kind of dig that up, how to perceive when they speak about your love life, when you're reading something or hearing something about astrology?
Well, you can read about the planets that are in your seventh house, what we call the seventh house. So like if you look on the Chani app and you scroll down, you'll see where each of your planets are. And if you see any in the seventh house, they'll tell you something about what kind of relationship you want to be in. And then you also look at your Venus. So you would read the description of your Venus, the sign that it's in, the house that it's in, where it is and what it's doing. And that'll tell you a lot about your need. You can also look at your moon sign and see how you like create safety with another person, the kind of home you would want to create, the kind of like day-to-day connections and nurturing and nourishment that you need. So someone with a
kind
Sag
of use
moon,
that as a guide. It's not going to say it's John Jones who lives in 4555. Yeah, it's going to be like, this is the vibe.
Yes. Yeah.
Baby, this is Keke Palmer, yeah.
So, Chani, I'm very excited to have my mom here. My mom is a Virgo, but she and I, we relate on a lot of different things. We're different, but we're kind of the same. We work together, obviously, with my job. She's the one who helped start my career, my brand, and she's like my best friend. We've gone through ups and downs, but like she's really my girl to the girl max. And so I'm very curious to hear about why that is, how that is, and how she was chosen for me.
Listen, welcome.
Hi.
Okay, I'm so excited to talk about your chart and all of the ways in which the two of you are connected because it's kind of ridiculous.
Oh my goodness.
I'm hard pressed to say that I've seen something so connected as this. So, okay. I'm not sure if you heard, but Keke has this planet called Venus coming up over the horizon the moment that she was born. And it means that she's marked with a blessing. So there's two planets in the sky that are said to bestow their blessings. They're called benefics. One is Venus, which is the planet of art and beauty and relationships and connecting. And that's what Keke has. She has this planet of needing to create beauty and connect to people and be like, hey, let's be friends. And I'm going to make you feel a lot of things. And the other planet is Jupiter. And Jupiter is the planet of wisdom and abundance. And also just like having a kind of optimistic point of view. It's also a planet of religion and spirituality. It's really the teacher planet. And that's the planet that you have coming up over the horizon. So the two of you, it's in very different signs. So yours is in Leo, Keke's is in Cancer, very different. But the two of you have within a couple of degrees. So just exactly if we would have looked on the eastern horizon when you were born, we would have seen this beautiful Jupiter, which is both planets are really sparkly and really visually stunning, especially when they're in the position that they were in when you were born. And so you both have this mark of a blessing that comes with your birth. There's a mark of something special here. Now, again, yours is like the great benefic. So it's like, it's this sense of being big. It's this sense of being wise. It's this sense of bringing some kind of expansion to wherever it is you go. And
Wow.
that Leo rising is really good at performing. It's really good at drama. It's
So
really
that's
good
what
at
I have.
That's you.
I'm Leo rising.
That's
Okay.
right. That's you.
And
That's
and
you.
then she's the Venus, the love, and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Well, that's
Yes.
like where the
But
planets are, but my
friendship.
rising is a Cancer.
Yes.
And what does that mean? What is that? Your
It's
rising is Cancer.
she's sensitive.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, but you know what? I'm not surprised about the love because I remember out of all my kids, she's the one who was just so concerned emotionally about me. Like she would come up to
Yeah.
me and go, "Mommy, you don't look good. You
Yeah.
look sad today.
Yeah.
Smile." And then I would, do a fake smile. And she goes, "That's not real.
Yeah.
That's not." And she seemed to be. And then when she was little, like before she could even talk, she would just hug my neck
Yeah.
so tight, like super, super love. And
Yeah.
I said to myself, I was like, this kid here really loves me.
Yeah.
She really, really loved my first daughter, obviously I felt she loved me. But with Keke, it was like she just hugged me so tight. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
she tried to sleep with me until she was 4. I would put her in the bed and then I'd wake up and she'd be laying on top of me. and my husband would say, make her get out of the bed, and I just couldn't do it because she just loved me so. It's like she just
Oh.
could
She's a
not
love
let me
muffin.
go.
Yeah. That's the signature of her birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yours is to teach. Yours is to like bring opportunity. Yours is to bring light. Yours is to bring some kind of like optimism and glow.
Well,
There's
all
something.
And
right.
it's
Like,
interesting.
I
It's
love it.
interesting that you had said that about the teacher because my mom is someone that I also see as a mentor, and not only me, but I've seen her mentor everybody around me. Everybody, like, I mean, there are people that I worked with that were on my street team when I was doing music and stuff at like 12 and 13, and now we're in our 30s and they're working with me still, and they've been like motivated by Sharon.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious of like what that says about her. She started out as a performer. She was a performer herself, but then obviously became this mentor and this teacher to me and to others. How does that play out with the moon sign for her?
Okay. Well, it actually plays out with her sun sign. So it makes the sun the ruler of her ascendant. So then we're like, okay, well, what is her sun up to? Because her sun, wherever her sun is in charge of where her life's direction needs to go. And you have the sun in Virgo, and it's in the second house of work and livelihood and money and accounting and making sure.
She always is doing the accountings.
Listen,
Sharon,
I
you
want
are
her
really
doing the
always-
accounting. Listen to me. She is the one who should be tracking the numbers because there is no number that can get away from her.
But you know what?
don't
It's so
care what.
you know what though? It's so funny that you say that.
Huh.
Is because every job that I have ever excelled in revolved around money.
Yes.
It really did. And it's so weird to me. And I'm able to see the numbers and all this type of stuff. And then when I have business meetings, I'm always like, what happened to this money?
That's right.
What happened to this job?
Yes.
I was just on the accounting the other day.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, we did another deal. Where might that money be?
Yes, exactly. That is
But
what
I
you're
don't know why I'm doing that.
Because I could tell you your Mercury, your sun and your Mercury. So you were born with this other really special thing, which is the sun and Mercury were at the exact same place in the sky. And they were in a sign that Mercury rules. So Mercury is literally the counter. If you think of like an abacus, that's Mercury. Mercury communicates, but it counts, it tallies, it makes sure that everything is there. And in Virgo, it is exceptionally good at accounting, counting, subtracting, adding, all the things.
That makes sense. But the thing is, I'm very obsessed with no one taking advantage of Keke.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm not so much obsessed with the money. Like once I get it and it all comes, I'm not overly excited or it's like the excitement comes from making sure I know it's going in the right place.
That's right. It has to be correct.
Yes.
Now you've got Jupiter on the ascendant, which means you come from a place of abundance. You come from a place of internal wealth. You come from a place
Come
of
on now,
knowing,
eternal wealth. Yes.
knowing that your cup is already full. Like
Amen.
You come spiritually full. And so it's not about hoarding, but your Virgo is like, these are the numbers and numbers don't lie. So where's the thing?
That's very you.
You are absolutely right.
And then the other thing is that the planet that rules, that is in charge of your children, is in your first house is Jupiter. So there's something that says like your children are part of how you come into your own purpose. And they're also part of how you generate more abundance. And they're something really linked to your own identity. So the blessing from the children is very much about you and also your ability to be teacher and to be person who is creating opportunity and who is broadening the horizons is also really connected to your children's well-being.
Right.
No, because Sharon, that is what you did, Sharon. No, that is what you did, Sharon. You know, one time my little brother, he's a Pisces. He's one day I'll get into his chart. I'll have to figure his stuff out.
With two Virgos there.
No, seriously. But he said that about me and you. He said, you don't understand. He was like, what you and mom have going on, y'all did something special.
Yeah.
Something special happened and y'all woke each other up. That's what he said. He said, because what you guys did, he said pretty much like what she said without the language, that there was something about who you are and everything you are and what you put into us and how when having us ignited you to really go expansive into it.
Yes.
But what she's saying makes sense in terms of you and I kind of understanding each other, kind of, because like I work with your brothers and sisters. I work with them in entertainment. You know, I tried to teach them and do stuff, but with Keke, it was so different. It was
Easy.
It was like I would work with her.
What were you going to say?
What were you going to say?
Well, you have the exact same Mercuries. Exact. They're at the exact same place. So it's like you guys can read each other's minds. Like there's a communication that happens between you that is, it's like beyond time, you know, it just like kind of like lapses. And it's,
you know, it's funny you saying that because now this is true. I can always tell, and I never told anybody this, but I can always tell when something's wrong with her.
Yeah.
So I feel weird. It's something wrong. And I tell her dad, I said, something's not right with Keke.
Yeah.
And then she'll call and like, see, I knew it, you know. Yeah. And then sometimes I feel really at peace. And I say, Keke's good. She's good. And the older she gets, I feel the more she's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that so, it's so strange that you said this thing about this Mercury thing, about a connection, because my mom and I have always had this type of thing where we just got each other to the max. Like even when she's talking about me hugging her as a baby and stuff like that, like there was something that I knew, it's something that I felt. And the performance, like she has truly been like a little master, you know what I mean, of me. You know what I mean? And helping me. It was like, it was as if she sat down and she looked at me like, these words never were said, but this is how it feels to me on a spiritual level. If we want to do this and we're going to change everything, I need you to be serious. Yeah. And then I said, yes, if you need me, I will. And it's like we just started becoming like the damn movie with the wax on, wax off.
But your Virgos came together. Because you both have Virgo sun too. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so it's funny to hear her say that. But people ask me this all the time. You know, how do you guys do what you do? How do you still keep working with your daughter? Because a lot of people can't even talk to their kids or whatever like that. But for me, it was her work ethic. It was her commitment to excellence that kind of made me get my shit together. Because it was like, okay, if this little girl can do all of this and memorize and be happy, like she was happy. She would learn her little lines and she would be happy. And I said to myself, I've never seen this before, because I had taught drama to high school students. Right. And she was little, like 8, 9 years old. And I saw her at their level. And I said to myself, I've never seen this before in a child so young. And I think the world should see this. Yeah. And that was my only motivation. It wasn't money. It was college. I was like, we could save money for her to go to college. But my bigger thing, and I don't know if this was ego or not, but it was kind of like, this is brilliant. I want everybody to see this. Yeah. Because I've never met a kid that was 8 years old that had she was like, maybe she was 18 or 19, because I had been working with, seniors in high school. And at 8, she was at their level. in acting, in comprehension, in memorization.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had never seen it.
The two of you can go like toe to toe for your analytic abilities, your academic abilities, your abilities to like understand things, remember them, integrate them, make them your knowledge, and go with them. And you both have, Virgo Sun and Virgo Mercury, which just makes you exceptionally hardworking. But you have your sun in the second house of work, and then Keke has her moon in the sixth house of another place of like daily work and the daily grind. And so you both have a luminary in a place where you're like, okay, let's get this done. Let's do this. Like you're both in already. And then you both have fire sign moons, which, the earthiness of your suns gives you that ability to anchor your talent in the real world through real actions. And then your moons are able to just like go with the intuition. And I think, Sharon, you've got incredible intuition. I think your ability to pick up on what the next thing to do is like bar none.
It is. Yeah. It really is.
She has great instincts as well.
Yeah.
And then Keke has more patience than me too. Like a lot of times with, she sees bullshit, but she won't call it out.
That's so that Venus. That's her Venus. She's in recovery for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just love people too much.
Keke, because you have Venus, and Sharon, because you have Jupiter on the ascendant in such a potent way, you both move into the world with something to give instead of asking for the world to give you something or to get something.
Absolutely.
And so one of the biggest blessings that both of you bring all of us is that kind of generosity. So Keke does it through connection. Sharon, you do it through like wisdom and mentoring and bringing a kind of spirituality and potency in that way. But at the end of the day, it's like you're both moving into the world with this mark of generosity and giving. And that's what
she's good.
Makes you so blessed.
I have another question before I get to the game, which is, what does it say about, when I'm hearing her talk, it made me curious, what does it say about me as a mom? What does it say about motherhood in my chart or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that both of you have this connection. Jupiter is around both situations when it comes to children. So there's this like really deep spiritual connection to your children and an expansiveness. And Keke, you've got Pluto in the fifth house of children. So I just feel like your little one is like very powerful. And
yes.
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 What else does it say? Because there's something there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a very potent, powerful energy. And he's probably like going to do a lot of transformation in the world, I think. And there's something tied to also to like justice and really wanting to fight for what is right. So, it's
and
with
that's
kids,
why I named him Leotis Angleton Jackson, because he sounds like he was marching.
He's a civil rights leader.
That's right.
Okay, now let's get into the game.
Okay.
I love talking about astrology, and I love you. I think Sharon does too now.
Yes.
This has been a lot of fun. But with all my guests, before we end the show, we play a little game, and this one's called Here For It or Not. I'll read you a potential use for astrology, and you tell me whether or not you're here for it.
Okay. Love this.
Okay?
Yeah.
Checking someone's birth chart on the first date.
Not.
Ooh, why?
Because I want to get to know you without any bias. I just want to feel you. I want to see what you do. And I want to understand your actions just from person to person, human to human level.
Okay. I think it makes sense. That's how I feel about not looking at their Instagram page.
You know what I mean?
Trying to control what sign your kid will be by conceiving at a specific time of year.
I can't say that my wife isn't guilty of this. So also we're queer, so it's a little different. We do have to come in and like plan things. It's not the same, but to each their own. I think that if you don't like a sign and you're trying to avoid a sign, that's weird.
Right. Because maybe that sign is going to teach you something.
That's right.
Okay, deciding not to be friends with someone because of their sign. I know
That's
you're
horrific.
not going to be here for this. Yeah, this is crazy.
That's
Unless
not,
you
that's
are.
That's not it.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Consciously making an effort to live life contrary to expectations of your sign.
That's also just a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Every sign has lots of flaws. Believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, cutting your hair according to moon phases.
Now, if you do want to grow your hair, then it's good to cut it just after the new moon. And if you don't want it to grow that fast, it's good to cut it, like after the full moon. I do believe in that.
So when do you know, like if you want it to grow, when should you cut it again?
Right after the new moon or on the new moon.
When do we know when that's coming?
Well, we can look in the Chani app, or we've got an Astro planner if you want.
And it'll let me know after the new moon or on the new moon to get my hair cut. Then.
Get your hair cut, yeah.
And the hair gonna grow?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, I'm doing that soon. Okay. The idea of there being a 13th sign called Ophiuchus or Ophiuchus?
It's like astrologers have always known about. It's like a little bit of the constellation comes into the zodiacal wheel, but we've carved up the zodiacal wheel in a certain way on purpose. We've known about all of the different constellations. It's not a thing. It's just a clickbait piece that comes up every year or so.
Okay, come on,
clickbait.
We
have an article about it on our site if you want to read more.
Okay, last question. People pronouncing their sun sign before you even know them with a t-shirt or tattoo.
I mean, live your life. I don't know why you want to be prejudged like that, but go ahead.
Okay, and then this is my last question, because I think when people hear this, and then also with entertainers, people will read their charts and they'll say all this stuff about, you're born for this and you were shining, you were starring. And I think sometimes that also can make people feel weird about astrology.
Yeah.
But the truth is, doesn't everybody have something so unique and special and amazing in their charts? Like in terms of because I think so much emphasis is put on what it means to be a star in this lifetime, or what a star is and how you shine. But there's so many other ways to make a great impact that have nothing to do with being an entertainer in this way.
Yeah. Yes, every single moment of time is unique because of everything is like slightly different all the time. And so unless you're born at the exact same time in the exact same place as another human being, which does happen, and you will have this exact same chart as some people, but it's rare. So like every little moment is constellated, in an exact kind of way. And there is a reflection there for you to gaze upon if you want, and to glean some meaning from. And again, hopefully all of it encourages you to be a better person and to be of service in the world. And that's the be all end all, I think, of all of this, of any spiritual tradition or religious one.
I love that. You ate that. And I thank you so much for coming on the show. I can't wait to have you back again.
I can't wait to come back. It was so lovely to meet both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was delightful.
Yes, she said all great things about Virgos, which we knew was, it was just obvious, but it was nice to hear from an expert that we're fabulous.
Mom, that's hilarious. The part that I love so much, because me and you talk about Virgo all the time, but she really got into all of the details. And I think I had told you that you were Leo rising.
Yes.
And I told you that you were Aries moon. But I think it was cool that she really got into the stuff.
Yeah, because you didn't tell me about Jupiter.
Yeah.
That was really interesting about what she said. My planet or whatever was Jupiter, and that's where all my wisdom comes from, and my mentoring, and that you're love, and that I have to mentor over all this love.
Okay, please, Sharon. Now I'm going to have to call Chani back because you was just getting too into all this adoration that was going on. The coolest thing that I love about it, which is something that people always comment on about me and you. And sometimes I'm like, well, I think everybody can have this with their mom. And I'm sure everybody can have a very close relationship with their mom, but it's very cool to hear that there are some things specifically that we share, because it's like, it's one thing with family you have a connection to because they're your family. But then also when you think about the fact that we have shared interests or things that we love and the way that we communicate, and different styles that we just do similarly, it explains that different added layer that I've always felt that you and I have had.
Right.
Where we just get each other in a way that I can't really explain.
Right. Neither can I. But, the whole love for movies and, just the history of things and the way you're able to break things down, though. We're similar in terms of us being able to see things simple, but you can break stuff down. The most complex things, you can break them down in layman's terms way better than me.
Oh.
But I do feel I can do a lot of that. But what I honestly feel is that you're the best of me. That's what I honestly feel. I feel that there's things that I try to do or I've always wanted to do, that you can do them better than me. So job well done as a mother. I've passed things on to you and you do them better than me.
You said something earlier in this conversation where you said I was the quote-unquote best parts of you, whatever you have it.
Yeah.
But Sharon, if that is any true, that's what I was displaying back at you. I was mirroring you. There were several scenarios where you displayed reframing, the process of reframing in a way that would empower
Girl,
me.
come on now, reframe.
You would. I would go through a situation and
Right.
you would say, well, Keke, that's not, well, this is the thing. A lot of these people, you don't know where they're coming from.
Right.
They don't always make
Yeah.
the end decision. You don't always know what it is. It could be because you tall, short, the
So
person
you was
don't
telling
match.
me back what I was telling you.
me.
That's right. Well,
That's
see,
all
there
I
you
was
go.
doing. That's all I was
No,
doing.
you're right.
I was just reflecting everything about you
right.
back at
well,
you.
one thing I could say to you about this business is that you've never, and I don't know what you go into your room and do, but out in, I mean, I don't know what.
That reminds me of one time when we were in Berlin, shooting Berlin Station, and I got so embarrassed because I was watching Game of Thrones and there was a sex scene going on, and my door was open. I said, oh my gosh, I hope my mom don't think I'm in here watching porn. I was so scared.
Well, I probably was in my room watching porn, so it didn't matter. But but the thing is with you, and this is something that I've always admired. I always admire you, and you know, and why people are, why do you admire her? Because even when you have problems or you have issues, you always work on yourself. You're the type of person that's up working on yourself. You're reading, you're trying to figure things out. And I've always admired that. You've never been the type of person that wallow around, oh, woe is me. You're always, oh, well, I got to figure this out. I got to do
Mom,
this.
that
You're
is you.
You're very solution orientated. So if I gave that to you, then that's a great gift.
Girl, I remember this one time that I was going through, I don't know what it was, a breakup or something. I was just like really just depressed, down in the dumps.
Mm-hmm.
And I was laying in my bed and I was just sad. And you came into my room and said, what's going on? I said, Mom, it's just sad. You know, I just don't know how I'm going to get through this. You were like, you going to get through it. You need to get about this bed. I'm like, Mom, I can't. And so, yes, you can. You gonna get out this bed. You can't do this. You know who you are. You're going to be sad. You move on. But you're not going to do this.
It's okay to cry.
You need to get up
right.
and stop acting like that because you are better than this. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm better than this.
But you know, sometimes you need people
Do you
to tell
remember
you
that?
Yes, of
Because
course.
you was like, I could see on your face.
Yeah.
This is what I felt you was doing. Do I sit up in this bed and be sad with her?
Right.
Do I take it easy and I don't want her to be broken and falling apart?
Right.
And then in a split second, you say, oh, hell no. I'm about to get it into her right now that she can't do this.
That's right.
And I was like, I love that. I was like, she really snapped me out of that.
Yeah, and that's the type of mother I had. So, and I told you, you know, where you came from is important. Your family is important.
I was like 20. I think I was
Yeah.
like 21 years old.
Yeah, that's what my mother. My mother used to tell me that even if I was in the bed sick, she'd go, get up. And I said, Mama, I'm so sick. Get up, take a shower, take your medicine, go back to bed. You'll be clean in the bed. That'll make you feel better, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the type of people that I came from. So I just, in that moment, I turned into Mildred and I said, get up. So I'm glad that it helped you because that's what my mother used to tell me. She'd say, you know, you have to help yourself. Those are things that she'd say. Have to help yourself, you know, keep living. And, you know, and God give you 5 senses for a reason.
Yep.
I never did
couldn't agree
understand that one, though.
Yeah.
God give
Thanks.
You can smell. What are the 5 senses?
Smell, hear, taste, see, and touch.
So he gave you 5. So what was she talking about?
So say
God
it
gave you
again.
5 senses for. Get on up. God gave you
Use
5
them.
senses for a
Use
reason.
them.
Oh,
So use them.
okay. That used to irritate me so that I never
Yeah.
thought about what the hell she was talking about. So now I get it. So she was telling me God gave you 5 senses. So use them.
So use them. Yeah.
There
Don't
you
just
go.
sit there and use. I guess what was you using with laying in bed? Touch.
I guess. I don't know. But now that makes sense. So now I'm going to tell your kids that God gave you 5 senses, so use them.
You're not going to tell them, I'll dance at your wedding with a cowbell on. I used to hate that one.
I love
Anyway. Chani is a unique voice and has such a sharp intuition about her. I'm blown away by the reading she gave me and my mom. I think she's showing us how astrology isn't just about predicting the future, but more about understanding ourselves and embracing who we truly are. my biggest takeaway is that when the world demands constant rationalization and justification for our behaviors, astrology might be one of the best tools we have to fill in the gaps and truly accept ourselves. So get out there and tap into the stars to love you a little more. And I'll see you next week because you know it's your girl.
Baby,